bright flash, brighter than the sun. It could knock you down hard or throw you against a tree or a wall. It is such a big explosion.
Dick. Baby. Mind me now. You watch yourself here. Keep that lid on tight.
And this is why he didn't want to help the government. This is why he didn't want anything to do with any of this, because the pain that is, we always joke, like, Dick thought about just letting them kill him. Because taking the lid off the box is so much worse than death. It is death, and it's participating with death. So seeing grandma means death is closer, and she's loud. The louder she gets, the more it's like, I'm getting closer to something that I am not supposed to be at.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
And I'm Princess Weeks.
And this is the official Welcome to Derry podcast.
And we are back again, Marc. The closer we get to the truth in Derry, the harder it becomes to look away.
Truly. This week's episode pulls back the curtain on the cost of having any special abilities or knowledge.
Yes, from Cold War paranoia to ancestral warnings that we will not listen to, this chapter reminds us that some things buried don't stay buried for long.
This week, we're unpacking episode 4, The Great Swirling Apparatus of Our Planet's Function, written by Helen Chang and directed by Andrew Bernstein.
And we've got two incredible guests joining us, Chris Chalk, who brings Dick Hallorann to life, and John Bear Mitchell, the series' historical consultant.
Spoiler alert, kids, we're about to open the box on episode 4, and there is no closing it after this.
Don't say we didn't warn you. I knew those photographs weren't going to show no ghosts. That's basic Ghost 101. They never show up in photographs. It's like vampires, werewolves, witches. That's not going to show up on camera, kids.
No, and they were so cute about it, though. They felt so much. They're like, listen, we did it. We got it.
Evidence.
That's no evidence. There's no evidence. But there's a little kind of blurry clown. It's a thing.
Foreshadowing.
Right. But, of course, that doesn't mean anything to the fuzz because, if it, as a novel, as a movie, as a TV show, has proved anything, it's you cannot trust adults worth a damn.
No. Plus, especially, they already got a black man in custody. They're like, as far as we're concerned, case closed. We got him.
We are good.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that it tells us that you can't trust adults, it does make me a little bit suspect when Lily goes off and talks to Ingrid. Mm-hmm. And Ingrid is like, I'm all about it. What do you have? Tell me your story.
Now that you mention it, I do remember some kids going missing in the 30s. Quite a few, actually.
Really?
I know. And I think it speaks to that kind of curious nature of it and how within these cycles, everyone's dealing with trauma, but then it becomes slowly erased. So when you have a character like Ingrid that kind of seems to like pierce through that veil of mystery, it's like, but why? Were you traumatized by it? It makes me, it's both intriguing and suspicious, especially because so few adults believe these kids that I'm holding out hope that Ingrid might be one of the good ones.
She, at the very least, has a sympathetic ear, but can also help fill in some of these blanks where she's like, well, a bunch of kids went missing in the 30s. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Why doesn't anybody talk about this?
We do actually get some more competent adults because Rose and Charlotte get to interact this episode, which was really interesting with Charlotte being like, so, black man being accused of crime. My beautiful black family is here. Should we be concerned?
And I do love that Rose is here because she's curious. It's not even just she's trying to be neighborly. Like, she wants to know what's going on with Leroy and what the army is up to because she's been activated, in the past couple of episodes. And then she drops a dime like,
Derry is a beautiful place, but things do happen from time to time.
It's one of those chilling sort of moments of like, people just know how to exist in terror, which for these two characters, especially as like a black woman from the South and an Indigenous woman, it's like, we live with our horrors all the time. So what's a clown?
Yeah. It's just, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Meanwhile, Dick and the boys have found a new spot.
Dick and the boys.
Dick and the boys. General Shaw finds them, a Quonset hut or just an abandoned shack on the edge of the air base.
Storage shack.
Clearly nobody else wanted. Clearly they forgot about it.
Exactly. It's very much northern segregation. Like, we're not saying that you should have your own place away from us, but wouldn't it be nice if you had one? Wouldn't it just be so much more comfortable for you to be away from everyone in the shack?
But then, as the boys start cleaning it up, Dick suddenly looks a little uneasy.
Unfortunately, he's in a situation where it's like he can't leave, so he's got to stay here with his boys. But he is sort of like, am I putting the boys in a bad situation? Only time will tell.
Yeah. And if, you know the It story at all, you know that it's probably not going to go well.
Exactly. And that's true for everyone involved.
Pretty much. I think my favorite scene, only because it spoke so deeply to my own personal experience, was when Will comes home, races up on his bike, drops it on the front lawn, which is a thing you could do at the time,
Right.
Goes up into his room to look for the magic pictures that he took that was going to prove, that there's something freaky going on in Derry. And the pictures are gone. Mm-hmm. And Charlotte is black momming the hell out of poor Will.
Looking for these? I was tidying up and I found these stuffed in an envelope in the back of that drawer. What's going on, Will? And don't lie to me.
It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I was tidying up and found these photos hidden in the back of a drawer underneath all your stuff. It's like, well, Charlotte, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. But yeah, I did feel for Will.
I know.
It's like, oh man, Mom.
I'm just trying to help people. It's like I found Black love in Derry, of all places, and I gotta help out. I do appreciate his sort of chutzpah. And I think Charlotte balances out I think her character lends her the ability to be both protective, but also appreciate that her son wants to make a difference. And it's like, I'm going to protect you, baby, because that's my job. But I appreciate that you want to make a difference.
Yeah, and also the fact that as an activist in Shreveport, Louisiana, she has seen her share of horrors. Mm-hmm. And so when Will comes and starts talking about horrors, she doesn't automatically discount him, which unlike most adults in and around these parts, she, a bit like Ingrid, is a little bit sympathetic for the plight of the losers. Mm-hmm. Leroy, of course, is not, because Leroy just doesn't know. He's not there yet.
He's not there yet. He hasn't been properly dictified, because once that happens, everything will be changed.
It will. And, much as I understood the deep black momming of Charlotte, I also understood the vast gulf between father and son when Leroy and Will are sitting at the dinner table.
How was your first week of school?
Fine.
Fine. Give me some details.
That was so cute. I don't have that relationship because, not my gender journey, but I do appreciate those moments of domestic awkwardness because to me, it's like you so rarely get to see that in these kind of shows with Black kids. And I think it just speaks to this underlined frustration of you have a son who is growing up and forming their own path. And Leroy is just so on his own, military structured bubble that he just cannot bridge that gap at all between he and his kid. And Leroy is just let's go fishing.
Dad, how long do we have to do this?
Have to?
The most boring thing a person can do, if you're 11, is standing in a river waiting for a fish to bite. I mean, that is until he gets pulled underwater by Demon Dad, who's scarred with burns. You'll burn too.
That was so scary. It was so scary. It was so upsetting. Just the mentality of putting myself in a situation where you hear your child screaming, you run back, and then you see these bruises that you can't explain. And then the red balloon, that entire thing, it's just kind of okay, all right, it's time to leave. But then we go back to Dick dealing with these visions that he's getting of his grandmother.
You watch yourself here. Keep that little tight.
We really come to understand how Dick becomes spiritually compromised, to use that kind of wording around it, due to the army wanting to weaponize him, and how this power that he has, that he's been told for all of his life pretty much to, as the grandmother says, keep a lid on it. He is forcing that lid open and then forcing it into other people. It's really a great character journey for him this episode.
It is. It is. And I do love it when, Dick, who has been indoctrinated to this kind of supernatural, collides with Leroy, who is still struggling with anything that is not something he can prove, something he can hold on to with his two hands and literally just bite down on with fact. And so every time they collide, it's kind of fun. And so Leroy rolls up outside the black spot, which they haven't named the black spot yet, but again, we all know that that's what that is. Leroy wants to know when they're getting back at it. When are we going back in the air again? But then that conversation quickly turns to, I and my son saw a weird thing in the water. And hey, listen, you are my resident magical Negro. What are we talking about? What are we looking at?
Right.
What is happening in Derry?
Hallorann, what the hell are we actually looking for? Answer me! I don't know!
And, Dick is shook, but he still defaults to military protocols. Like, I do what I'm told, when I'm told, just like you.
And then we see Marge going up to Lily, asking her to eat lunch. And at first I was like, okay, maybe she's realizing that the patty cakes suck, but then it looks like she's working with the patty cakes. And I'm just like, damn it, Marge.
Did she go for it?
I think so. She's freshening up.
Good, because it's all set. The second she goes over to him, he's gonna embarrass her in front of the whole school.
Again, if you're a Stephen King fan, if you're a reader, then the cool girls are never the good girls.
They're never good.
And so at some point, there's just pig blood waiting. Just, biding its time.
Just throwing tampons at you for no reason. Like, come on, guys.
But we digress. Charlotte rolls up to the police station again with a letter of permission from Luella in hand and demands to see Hank Grogan. Her Mocha Avenger is on for real.
Exactly.
And she is full to the brim of not fucking around.
Listen, lady, I suggest that you take it on the arches before you find yourself in a cell right next to him.
My name's not Lady, it's Charlotte Hanlon. And that may not mean much to you right now, but it will when you see all the scary shit I can do with the telephone.
So she finally sits with Hank. She leads with sugar. His rights to due process were violated, and he'll be able to wait for his trial under house arrest, and then follows with the spice, which is, where were you, bruv?
You don't have to go on record with the truth. Where were you, really? You realize that answer could set you free.
Come on, man, what are you doing? What's happening out here in Derry for you at 11:30 at night?
Whatever you were doing can't possibly compare to what you're being accused of.
And we guessed it.
I was with a woman.
A married woman?
Not just married.
A white woman.
And so this is why Hank has been cagey this whole time. Because, if anybody finds out, I won't be headed to New Shawshank. He says they'll just find the nearest tree. Not to mention what her husband will do to her.
Yes.
If there's a way out without anyone getting hurt, I'll take it.
Exactly. Like, at first I was like, but then I forgot that she was married. I'm like, that'll do it. There's a man involved. Okay. Well.
Yeah, there it is. At this point, General Shaw, he's about to be a bad dude.
Which we knew.
We
knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming.
How often are those kids out there watching the base?
The kids from Indian Marsh? Sir, they may be curious, but they know to stay on their own side of the fence.
Maybe it's time we open the gate.
James Remar is so good at playing someone who seems soft-spoken and very quiet, but then ends up being a massive, massive asshole. Like, he'll always be Richard from Sex and the City to me. And so whenever I see him and he does something like this, I'm just kind of like, dirty martini, dirty bastard. And that's how I felt when he's just like, let's bring them into the base and see where they go. I'm like, no, Rose trusted you. You're not safe amongst women.
You were young. You were in love.
Don't you remember the slingshot?
And so now we find the complete picture of what Marge was up to with Lily. We find the prank. Marge tells Lily that you should go talk to Timmy Flanagan. He thinks you're cute. Lily's like, ooh, all right, let me go do that. This will be great. And then...
Marge, are you okay?
Then it gets bad.
As a glasses wearer, as we both are glasses wearer, I felt attacked by this because whenever I fall asleep with my contacts, I think I've had this nightmare dream. And for those who might not remember the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it was a combination of that and like the eye horror. It made my skin crawl.
Eye horror is rough. Like of the horrors, of the body horrors, eye horror is the worst. So now Leroy, his journey has been flirting and dancing and getting close to the supernatural, but never quite really being able to kind of cross that Rubicon, is getting closer. And I do love the idea that Charlotte and Leroy are in a bit of a pickle jar, where like she's going to be her and he's going to be him. And it seems as if maybe these two things are fundamentally a little bit incompatible. Exacerbated by the horror, so he's like, don't go looking for trouble.
There's gonna be trouble anywhere we go. That's the country you swore your life to defend. I'm just making it worth defending.
You swore to me that you wouldn't start up here.
It's like, oh, all right.
I know. It's a conversation that I feel like we've been ramping up to, and it's only episode 4. And I think that it perfectly punctuates the dynamic that we've seen brewing between this family and what is going to be guiding them forward. And I think if there is one silver lining, I think this episode is one where they're kind of slowly getting onto the same page. Because slowly Leroy can't start denying stuff anymore. Like, he needs answers.
Yeah. Which then sends Leroy into General Shaw's office being like, what the hell is going on?
And then Shaw is like, well, are you ready for a demonstration? And he goes into this whole thing about trying to find the weapon. And I think as the audience, we have this moment of like, they can't mean Pennywise. The army is not really trying to weaponize a cosmic clown. Oh, but they are, and on our tax dollars to boot.
Indeed.
And so then we see Leroy get shown Taniel, one of the young Indigenous guys who was seeing what was going on the land. He's handcuffed. And now Dick is brought in to force his way into Taniel's mind. And it is one of the, I think, going to be one of the iconic scenes of this series. It's such like how he gets into that mode with the hand motions. It'll be so cool to talk to Chris about this because it is just so different than how we usually see psychic powers activate.
It's like he's working a puzzle. It's like he's doing a Rubik's Cube. It's like he's unlocking his own mind to then use it to get into somebody else's mind. And that is pretty cool. And then the upshot of all this is that we go inside Taniel's mind. And it's like a room of doors. Each one is representing different memories. And then he drives through one of them and finds Taniel as a child, learning the origin story of it from Rose, from a younger Rose.
Millions of years ago, before the time of the first people, an evil spirit was cast down from the darkest part of the night sky.
And now we get it. Like halfway through the first season of the show, they're starting to unpack real answers for questions that people might have had from the novels, from the movies. Where, who is, what is, explain to me what it is.
And it is beyond comprehension. It is this cosmic force. It fell to Earth and the native population around, and John Bear Mitchell will get more into this with us about the indigenous populations of Maine, used the remnants of the star to seal it and try and keep, their community safe. Unfortunately, then the Western settlers came and decided, you know what? Who cares about harmony with the Earth? Why? Couldn't tell you. I mean, power's the answer, but I don't.
Yeah.
What I think is really interesting is the narrative about the war chief's daughter and her, and how it's this continued story of this disconnect between parents and their children.
Seski's daughter, Nikani, did not want to leave our land. She believed there was another path. She took the dagger and journeyed past the Great Deadwood with her friends by her side.
Like, these kids all want to be very proactive and figure things out, and they have no ability to, communicate it to their parents. And so it just leads to, everyone getting a little murked.
When Sesky realized that her daughter and the dagger were missing, she formed a search party to bring them both back. But without the dagger, they had nothing to protect themselves from the Galoo.
And the forms that the Galoo/it was taking?
The monster showed itself to them in the shape of the things they feared the most.
Like both crazed moose in the woods and like mooses are frightening enough as it is.
Very much.
Those things are massive and too fast to be that massive. And then like what looks like a missionary.
Yep,
like,
colonization, the OG.
Hell yeah. You know, like bald white dude with blonde hair, carrying a cross, wearing a monk's robe.
Scares me too.
I mean, all day. And so to watch the first battle with it and see how it came down and see that there was a solution to it that did involve harmony and did involve an institutional passing of knowledge that the chain of which still remains to this day.
Yeah. And a continued ignorance of like Western forces to like listen to the people of the land who are saying, hey, don't go in the forest, or hey, don't militarize a cosmic entity. You don't know what you're gonna get.
No clue. But this interlude was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like it's lush and it's sweeping and it's evocative.
Yeah.
You get the beauty and you get the harmony and then you get the horror trying to pierce that veil. It's a gorgeous little interlude.
It very much is.
But yeah, so Taniel, on the other side of this sort of invasion, this neuro assault that Dick wages against his brain, reveals to Dick that in order to find the pillars, he has to follow the well. And where's the well? It's under the house that we recognize as Neibolt Street. Bum, bum, bum.
Okay, I love how this episode gives us more Dick Hallorann. It's like we're watching the legend, the myth, the man take shape.
Absolutely. And he's not just the wise mentor we think we know. He's layered, he's haunted, and human. He's like an onion, so many different layers, and he's just trying to hold them all together.
And the actor who brings Hallorann to life, truly, utterly magnetic.
Our guest today has built a career on playing complex, unforgettable characters, and he's no stranger to HBO. You've seen him as Paul Drake in Perry Mason, and as Gary Cooper, no relation, in The Newsroom.
And now he's in our favorite small town of Derry, playing the legendary Dick Hallorann. We are thrilled, beyond thrilled, to have Chris Chalk with us. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Oh, you got the NPR voice and everything, man.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to build some auditory fans. My ASMR career starts today.
Oh, we're going to get you paid on the internet, man.
Come on now.
Subscribe.
You've played some characters that have had legacy, right? You've played Lucius Fox.
Come on, baby.
You've played Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Amazing fire display.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was incredible.
Killed it.
So big.
Killed it.
So big.
Angry, but innocent at the same time.
Yeah. Complex.
What is it like when you step
Wait,
into a
no,
role?
don't leave out James Baldwin, baby. Come on now, you gonna list shit. List it all.
I mean, we can take a separate, like, Chris Chalk's IMDb and just...
Come on now, you talking about King Kong and... No, also James Baldwin was of great importance. Great importance.
That was a highlight of that was a highlight episode of that season of television, I must say. I really did enjoy it.
I'm going to let you say it. I won't repeat it.
It was
I got
wonderful.
bosses. I won't say it.
But what is it like when you step into a role like Dick Hallorann? You know, knowing full well that that character has some legacy, that has some weight. Is it a challenge or is it an inspiration?
I think that... I mean, I guess it's a challenge in that every new role is a challenge, but I really trust my process. I've been doing this for quite a long time. I love my process. It's a very extensive process for character development. So it was exciting in that there's so much source material and there's already so many people's opinions. That's not normally a thing I get to like look at, but I did look at how people felt about Dick Hallorann, all the versions that have been portrayed. I gave myself like 40 minutes, I think I said. I can look at people's stuff for 40 minutes, then it's mine. And so I gave myself a little bit of time to check out other people's stuff, other people's interpretation, and then I got to make it mine or else I'm parroting. You know what I mean?
So it's so exciting to see you playing a legendary role like Dick Hallorann, but what was your first encounter with it, the franchise?
My first encounter with it was the Tim Curry joint back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second encounter was the book, because I read it when I was a teenager. I did like the 2017 and 2019 that Andy and Barbara did, so I knew those existed. So when I got this script, I was very excited because I already liked their taste as far as storytellers that partake in horror/thriller. I thought like, oh man, they come up with stuff that is grotesque and terrifying, as one should in the genre. It helped me prepare just because it's the history. Like It 1, It 2, it's the history of how they tell stories. It helped me understand who the people were out. I even looked at how they were talked about and how they talked about the show so that I knew the kind of set that was run. Because I think most people don't think about that, but that really matters. Like, what kind of company are you being a part of? I'm telling you, I love this crew so much. I cannot express how much I love this crew and company.
You have such warm things to say about the crew and working together. And we hear that you love to laugh, even when things get heavy. So on set, was laughter and levity part of how you dealt with things? Or did sometimes there were moments where like the darkness just really hung over everyone?
I think that we always did our best to have fun. I mean, we also, I don't know, we're Black American people for the most part. So it's like perspective. We get to act for a living. There's never going to be a scene. That's not true. There's been scenes in my life, right? There's a scene in episode 6 where I had to stay incredibly serious just because it required a certain amount of depth and emotional availability. So but otherwise, I think this entire crew and company realizes the great blessing of being able to work and pretend for a living. As much work, I went to school for this. I teach this. This is what I love, and I can make it as dense or as simple as you want. But ultimately, it is not brain surgery. So I really have perspective because I know from whence I came. So I tend to want it to be fun. I tend to want it to be clear. So once we get clear on what the day is meant to be, and once we get the technicality, why don't we just have a lot of fun? Like me, Stefan, and Jovan hung out a bunch on set and off set because we wanted to make sure that it was a positive environment. You know, the world's hard enough. Why make work hard?
I remember hearing this anecdote. I think it was Austin Butler who said about working on a Tarantino set that like once they get it, they do one more. And why do they do one more? Because they love making movies. And that's what Quentin says. Like every time we got it, let's do one more. Why? And the entire crew just says, because we love making movies.
I do think when you work with Andy, you gotta love making movies. You gotta love making. I know, really, man. He is like a sweet little kid with a ton of ideas. He has a clear idea, but he wants to incorporate everyone else into the discussion. And so then the day, you know, it's not Law and Order. We take our time on Welcome to Derry. Law and Order is a machine. You get in, you get out. Get in, get out. Get out! Get out! But Welcome to Derry was like long days of figuring it out. I keep telling this story. I got to really think of something else. But I remember one day, Andy was obsessed with a crack in the road, but it was 4 a.m. So part of me, the artist, is like, ooh, cool. But the Chris is like, hey, it's 4 a.m. Like, what are we doing? And he just kept taking the camera down and going on this crack. And then he took us out the shot, but nobody sent us home. And he's still obsessed with this crack in the road, something he just discovered on the day he would have never known. He would have never known. But the way he always keeps his brain open, I think we all do as a company. We keep our brain open to try to make the best possible movie. Once I saw that transition that he used in the edit, I went, oh, well, yeah, okay, you know what you're doing.
Racism and systemic injustice, you know, we are no strangers to that in the real world. Mm-hmm. You are no stranger to it as a performer. Perry Mason hit some of that hard. Newsroom hit some of that hard. Did you find that the similar themes in Welcome to Derry amplified that for you? Like, was that part of the attractiveness of this role?
I think part of the attractiveness was the time period because I had just done 1930s with Perry Mason, so it was interesting to move on to this time period. And also, putting Black people in genre work is always the best because it really shows how stupid racism is. Like, when the aliens come, are we gonna care? Are you serious? Are you really gonna care when you see some like lizard man or woman coming at you, you know what I mean? Like, you're really gonna be like, oh, he black, don't let him in. You know what I mean? So that's a fun element. That was one of the elements I was very interested in this story, Welcome to Derry, because we're dealing with race, and also we're dealing with race in a way that I don't normally do. Normally, I'm 12 Years a Slave, underground. It's very clear,
Heavy.
A lot of N-words, a lot of hitting, and this is not that fully, you know what I mean? Like, if you make this 12 Years a Slave, then it's not Welcome to Derry, then it's not it. Like, genre work can only do its style. It's not subtle. It's very non-subtle, but it's not, like, it ain't. We even talked. We said, why ain't nobody saying the N-word? I'm confused.
we did mention that. I was like, wow, they said Negro. They were holding back a lot in that.
Yeah. And it was, but we literally had meetings and talks about it because they hired me and Jovan and Stefan. We are like people who do these things by choice. We want to do work that talks about Black pain. And so it was fun to learn that in this particular show, there were more subtle ways and more clever ways, and also ways that don't push people away so quickly, It's hard for a racist to see themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and that is the truth of the sort of Northeast brand of racism. In that, like, we're better than that, aren't we? No.
Exactly.
We don't use the words, though, do we? No.
Well, isn't that the fun part of having those two characters coming from the South
Right,
to
exactly.
kind of escape the Southern racism, and then they end up in Derry, Maine, and they're like, wait a second, this is way worse.
Yeah.
This is pasteurized racism as opposed to just off the tap.
Yeah, like everyone's looking at me funny, and I'm not the clown.
What really struck me in episode 104 is that we see Dick helping to create the Black Spot, this place of, Black safety and belonging. But at the same time, he's being used by the military as a weapon to control and hurt people. How did you think about playing that contradiction, being both under the system's control and being made to enforce it?
There were also great discussions about why would Dick do this to Indigenous people? You know what I mean? Like, why would he, partake? But when your back's against the wall, which Dick's is, he has trapped himself with his own actions and put himself in a position where he has no choice but to do what they say or he loses his freedom.
Answer me! I don't know! I don't know what the hell it is. Hell, I'm not sure I want to know. Look, I do what I'm told, just like you.
And I'm going to tell you something about Dick. He don't really care that much about other people. At this stage of his evolution, it's very much me, because imagine if you could read everyone's mind, who you going to hang out with? Nobody. You know what I mean? And he's at a stage where his power is all or nothing. So it feels like he has to get away from everybody. It's cool to have the freedom of what other characters don't have. You know what I mean? Like when you meet Dick and he's with Reggie and he says, you really do something special. There is a power that comes, standing up tall. He feels very proud of that. But then there's the flip of that, thinking I'm in full control of that machine. And then they go, boy, you just a little black boy to us. So it was a cool thing to be able to play so confidently that one end of arrogance almost, so that then when the rug gets pulled from underneath me, I'm like, oh, I'm not. Not only am I not powerful in this military world, I'm not even powerful in this other reality that I can partake in, considering the entities that I meet in this show.
Well, let's talk, I guess, a little bit more about the conflict that your character faces in this specific episode. Dick feels torn about using his gift to hunt down something this dangerous.
I wouldn't even say he feels torn. I'd say he hates it. He does not want to do this. He does not want to do this at all.
So, how do you navigate, how do you walk that line of knowing what the story is going to need Dick to do and what you feel as an actor, what Dick should want to do, which is deuces, I'm kind of out.
Yeah, but the beauty of a good script is he's painted in a corner. It don't matter what I want or what he wants. He cannot leave the military regime until he does what he said he's going to do. And he's just hoping they're telling the truth. You know what I mean? But ultimately, whether he wants to or not, he's got to. He messed up enough that he's got big eyes on him with Shaw. He just dug too deep and ended up pulling up a snake. And the snake is Shaw, and Shaw is going to use him and abuse him as much as humanly possible.
But the idea that Dick doesn't want to be doing any of this until Leroy says, my son saw something in the river. Like, talk a little bit about, the way that Dick feels torn by both responsibility, desire to leave, and then here comes this kid.
What a great position to be in as an actor, playing a person who is pulled in 8 different directions, externally and internally. Like, it's a beautiful conflict because Dick loves family. He just don't have one, and he doesn't trust that he could have one. So when he meets Leroy, that's what I like to call him, when he meets Leroy.
The king.
But for the fans, Leroy. When he meets him, and then he hears about his family and he meets his wife, he's like, oh man, I'm a bit smitten with these people. Also, I've got this pitch that nobody listens to, not even Jovan, that this is a love story between Dick Hallorann and Leroy.
I agree. I've seen it.
Come on, Princess. I think that like there's this deep masculine love between these two dudes who are like anti-dudes. They're anti each other. They're anti everybody. They thought they'd roll solo their whole life. Leroy in one way is like, I'm brain damaged. I don't want no friends except for my one friend. That's it. And then Dick's just isolated because I can read everybody's minds. But when he realizes that not only can he can read Leroy's mind, but you saw, I think it was episode 3 where he got a warning. He said, hey, you can do that, but I'm going to exact revenge upon you. And Dick says, hey, man, you not a person I want to mess with, but will you be my buddy?
You are not the kind of fella I'm likely to fuck with, Major. But you saved my life up in that bird. So I sure wouldn't mind having you with me in them trenches.
Once that happens, there's a bond. It's not the most stable bond, but I think that's Dick risking companionship for the sake of that man's family, which is a huge reach for someone who at the beginning was like, man, I can't wait to see this dude get fired.
So jumping into episode 4 for a second, there's that really scary moment in the woods early on when that psychic vision hits you out of nowhere. You don't want it, you're fighting it.
Dick. Baby.
What was it like to play that, to have something that intense just crash in uninvited?
Oh man, this is Dick's scariest moment come true. The closer Dick gets to seeing his grandmother, the more terrified he is because that he hid all this stuff away. This is not, and this is why he didn't want to help the government. This is why he didn't want anything to do with any of this, because the pain that is, we always joked like Dick thought about just letting them kill him because taking the lid off the box is so much worse than death. It is death, and it's participating with death. So seeing grandma means death is closer, and she's loud. The louder she gets, the more it's like, I'm getting closer to something that I am not supposed to be at. So anytime he sees her, it's terror.
And then let's just talk about the scene with Tanya.
What they want me to do to you, it's not gonna be pleasant. Why don't you just tell them what they want to know? Save us both a whole lot of pain.
Holy smokes. I made a choice, okay, first I'll say this. Dick has no beef with Tanya. That's why he's like trying to lure it out of him. Like, just tell me, bro. Like, come on. Like, I'm telling you as a fact, this is going to be a negative experience for you. I'm not joking. I'm not sugarcoating. Just please tell me. And when he doesn't, Dick has to betray him in the same way Dick has been betrayed over and over again by having people violate his privacy.
Oh, Daniel. God, I'm so sorry about this.
So it's a terrible feeling. Just as an actor, I remember when I was in 12 Years a Slave, and I had to play this character who, when he saw his master, ran and was like, thank you, thank God, it's my master. The slavery, that there's similar feelings of like, oh, this feels so coony. This feels so betraying of like racial solidarity, but it's my job and I love my job and I love the discomfort of those roles. I love the discomfort. Give me all the discomfort of complicated Black men. I'll play them all with honor.
I'd love to talk about the scene when Dick enters Taniel's mind and we see all of those doors. It just looks like such an incredible complicated scene. What was it like filming that? What was the process like?
What I love about the Room of Doors, I remember when they were setting it up and I walked in and I said, whose is that? Who gets to do that? And there was a thing on set where they said, if there's a weird camera or crazy camera work, it's Chalk's day. It's my day. Because I had a camera in my mouth. I've had cameras in my eyes. So when I get into this room and they built all these doors with lights blasting behind them, and I saw the camera work where we had to choreograph this dance of me facing, then me turning, and it was very much, they took up the slack more than I did. Like, they really did adjust to me. I'm pretty good at that, but there were moments they were like, we'll fix it. He's not gonna fix it, we'll fix it. Don't ask Chris to do more. He's juggling a lot, this poor guy. But I never shot nothing like, I assumed it would all be digital. I assumed there wouldn't be lights behind the doors. So when that piece was even written, I just thought, oh, there's going to be a lot of green screen work. No, dude, they're blasting tons of light. So much was practical. They did such a good job of adding so much practical stuff that when I saw some of it and they added digital stuff, I went, oh, shit, you didn't even need that. You didn't even need that, really. They did a great job, man.
Chris Chalk, it was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was my absolute pleasure.
The world of Welcome to Derry is built on land with a story that reaches back long before Pennywise, or even Derry itself.
Our next guest today has spent his career helping people understand that deeper history. John Bear Mitchell is a citizen of the Penobscot Nation from Indian Island in Maine. He's an educator, historian, and consultant who serves in multiple roles at the University of Maine, teaching Wabanaki and multicultural studies and mentoring Native students.
He's also a traditional storyteller and singer whose voice has appeared in films, documentaries, and TV shows, including this one, where he served as a historical consultant.
We're thrilled to have him here to talk about what it means to tell stories rooted in this land and why that matters. Welcome, John Bear Mitchell. We're so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
When you come onto a project like this, what are the first conversations you want to have with the creative team? What are the guardrails that you like to set up?
First of all, I want to know who I'm working with. Am I working with set, props, hair, makeup, producers, directors of the episodes? Who am I going to be in communication with? And I also want to know what their expectations are of me. I want to know that we want to put out an authentic message visually and through story, that we're not being hokey, that we're doing stuff that honors and also entertains, tells a story, whether it's fact or fiction. And I really want to get the message out that we're a human people. You know, we still walk this land, we're embedded in this land. And when I'm putting it all together, essentially, I decide whether I want to get involved in a project based on how much of a voice they're going to give us. And when I say us, I'm talking about myself and ancestors in the past or people I might talk with right now to find out some different components that we can put together to make it authentic, to make it real, and to tell the stories, again, both visually and through the story itself.
And the land that we now call Maine has this incredibly rich history and present for Native Americans and the Penobscot people specifically. And it seems to be this land is at the core of many stories told in television and movies, not just in the Stephen King universe, but beyond. What do you think makes this land so magnetic for storytellers?
Well, it's an ancient land, right? We know that the earth itself is very old, but people living upon it bring that story. It goes back about 12,000 years ago when glaciers existed on top of what is now called Maine, and they were sliding out to the ocean slowly. They were thick. They were miles high. And we lived on that ice, and we went out with that ice. And when everything cleared, Maine was nothing but tundra, nothing but boulders and stones and valleys and hills and mountains. And we existed then on the land. Before even the trees, we were chasing animals for food, semi-migratory people. And what happened was we embedded ourselves within that land. Our memories, our ancestors are all buried there. There's not one spot of what we now call Maine where there has not been a set of footprints put there beforehand. We've been everywhere and for thousands of years. So land has memory. You know, it's in the roots of the trees, the stones along the shorelines. It's really in everything that exists, even around us. We call that Dildamamuk. We call that all of our relations. All of our relations are everybody that was here before us and who had created memory. Because land has memory, because land has history, prehistory, it has energy. And that energy is a story, and that story needs to be told. So I think that when you come to Maine, when you're here, you feel something very special because you're feeling the story that's embedded in the land.
You spent years preserving and teaching Penobscot stories. What responsibilities do you think storytellers, native and non-native, carry when they tell stories set on Indigenous land?
Well, they carry a lot of responsibility. We're just the messengers, right? The actual story comes from our ancestors. It flows through us. So we have to kind of put that story out in our own way. Each storyteller is unique and individualist, and they have to put the story out in a way that makes sense for their telling of it, keeping the morals, lessons, and values, keeping the core of the story itself intact while changing characters or scenery or adding humor or not, I think is really important. So for a storyteller, it's really important when anybody talks about the stories of Indigenous people in Maine, or even if we're telling the stories, that we need to keep the integrity of the stories, that we're not demeaning the message or the characters in it, and that we're expressing enough through description so that people feel the story and not just hear it. That's really important, because if you're just hearing it, it's great, but if you're feeling it, you're involved.
When did you notice, from your perspective, a shift in the desire on Hollywood's part to be more accurate with these stories, to be more inclusive with these stories?
So I've seen over the years that in the different productions that I've worked on, whether they're movies or TV shows, I've seen more of a let's hand it off to you rather than let's try to guide you into what we want to do. And so I've been handed off in this particular production, along with Sheree, who is one of the writers, Indigenous writers working on the team, the ability to be able to describe to her, because she's not from this area, different stories or tell her stories or have meetings and just show her around, send her pictures, and work with folks that basically listened. And I think we're seeing a shift there. And I'm happy to be part of that shift. I think it's really exciting to be part of that shift. I want to be involved in the storyline, meshed in the storyline. And within this particular production, Welcome to Derry, we were very enmeshed in the storyline, like woven through it. Mm-hmm. And that was appropriate.
And it shows. And I think specifically in episode 104, where we get the flashback sequence and see how, the history of the Penobscot is interwoven with the history of this fictional Derry. I would just love to know more about that, because I think when I was watching that scene, I really knew I really wanted to speak with you, because I feel like that mixture of the supernatural and like a living history is such a tricky thing to do. So how did that come together?
Yeah, we have a lot of ghosts in our stories and in our daily life. We call them ancestors. We call them spirits. And so what basically we did was we were given this kind of concept where we had these boundaries, right, called the Western Wood, where we had made a negotiation with whatever was there and said, this is your space. You do as you will in that space. Here's our space. But then we had the idea of colonialism, encroachment. There are places within Indigenous territories where we just don't go. We stay away from those places because we have negotiations, we have treaties, we have agreements, whatever you want to call it, with whatever's there. And sometimes it's not human. And sometimes we don't know what it is. But we just know that in the many thousands of years we've been in this land, that space over there is for whatever is over there. So we establish these places that we don't tread, but at the same time, we ask them not to tread in our spaces. So when we look at how we're going to pull this story together, I think what it was let's talk about those spaces that we don't go. Let's talk about encroachment. And I guess that's where I went with it, was to connect those things together and to address the issues of colonialism, encroachment, and broken treaties.
There's this really incredible emotional scene where the police arrest Taniel and bring out Dick Hallorann to read his mind, extract what he knows. And it's such a charged moment because of the history of how these authoritarian governments have treated Native people, taking knowledge without consent. What conversations did you have with the team about the meaning of this scene? And how did you personally interpret the dynamic between Taniel, the government, and Dick in that moment?
Yeah, that is a very key component to kind of how we don't have the freedom of our own story. We don't have the freedom of our own mind. Keeping in mind that Dick Hallorann comes from, he represents a culture, an ethnicity that was never an immigrant to this country. And so his history in itself is that he's brought here through his family lines involuntarily. So he himself represents something physically, but represents himself differently when it comes to power, because he's in a place where he can do this. He can control other people physically through his rank, through his role, but also through his mind and through the ability to be able to read the mind of somebody who doesn't have the right to their own thoughts and to harness their own privacy. So later on in that scene, Taniel becomes an involuntary guide in that story to Dick Hallorann, who is now almost being tour guided through Taniel's memories, because Taniel just says, I can't do this anymore. I can't block it. You're too strong. This is a story that you're not supposed to hear. You're not supposed to see, but let me take you and let's look at it. And so they watch it. And as we were filming that scene, actually, it was interesting to me that there was such a nuance between what was happening with Dick Hallorann and Taniel to what they were seeing.
Until one day, the settlers arrived. We warned them of the danger in the western wood, but they chose to ignore us.
And again, we're left with some questions. And that's always good, because anytime we're left with questions, we still have some hope.
Speaking of leaving people with things, if you could leave viewers with one thought or one feeling about the Penobscot Nation after they watch Welcome to Derry, what would it be?
My ultimate hope is that they realize, first of all, that Indigenous people are still here and still carry the songs, still carry the stories, the knowledge of our people from pre-contact right up through contact, through horrible times. I also want them to believe that we're human and to understand that we're human and that we still exist today, and that our messages are important. We're not so egocentric to say that we're the only people that understand nature and environment and weather and climate, but we're experienced in it. And I think we need to listen to more people that are experienced in what they know and listen a little bit deeper. So I want people to walk away with the understanding of our existence, of our assistance in helping other people along the way, and that we will never stop helping people, that we have a right to the Creator's law to carry on happiness for every human. Please listen. Let us tell the story, because in one way or another, you're going to be entertained.
John Bear Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us. Your work on Welcome to Derry made this show so powerful. So thank you for your time, your energy, and your storytelling.
Thank you so much for having me on today. Appreciate that.
Powerful words, and an important reminder that the stories we tell and how we tell them matter.
Next week, we're keeping the conversation going with a jam-packed episode.
We're going to be joined by Javon Adepo and Taylor Page, who play Leroy and Charlotte Hanlon, and Rudy Mancuso, who plays Leroy's pal, Captain Paulie. 3 incredible guests, and what I'm sure will be a wild episode. You won't want to miss it. The It Welcome to Derry podcast is a production of HBO in collaboration with Spoke Media. The show is hosted by me, Marc Bernardin, and Princess Weeks. Jenna Burnett is our senior producer, and Tess Ryan is our supervising producer. Our associate producer is Addie Vaughn, with help from Montserrat Rodriguez. Sound design and mix by Sammy Syret. Our executive producer for Spoke Media is Aliyah Tavakolian. Special thanks to Michael Gluckstadt, Allison Cohen-Sorokach, Kenya Reyes, and Aaron Kelly from the HBO Max podcast team. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.